What's up, everybody? Who's ready to get a little bit better? Woo! Here we go. All right. Let's get extremely practical today because I know, like, if you're watching this video, if you're hanging with me, like, you're a high achiever. You want to get stuff done, and you want to get a lot done. Not just what, like, you got a long list, and sometimes you get overwhelmed, and you got this opportunity, you got that opportunity, because the harder you work, the more success you create, like, the more opportunities you have, and, like, you got this piling up and that piling up, and your family demands over here, and your work demands over here, and you got to take care of your health over here, and all of a sudden you get overwhelmed, and you're like, what should I do? Like, how do I pick what to do? How do I prioritize my time and my schedule? Some of you are asking the question of, how do I do it all? I mean, pretty simple answer on that last, how do I do it all? You don't, because you're a human. Time is a finite commodity. You do not have unlimited resource of time. So let's go to the question we can actually answer a little better, which is, what should I do? Like, how do I pick what I should do? How I should prioritize my time? And I'm going to answer this with a resource. There's a wonderful book by Gary Keller called The One Thing. What should you do? You should do the one thing that makes everything else easier or even unnecessary. In the book, he talks about this as the focusing question. What is the one thing that by doing it, it makes everything else on my list, on my to-do list, all the opportunities, all the things overwhelm me, of everything I could do, what is the one thing that if I do that, it makes everything else easier or obsolete? It makes them unnecessary, because if I do this one thing, I don't even have to do that or that or that. I just did this one thing, and there was a ripple effect of that one thing. So if you look at your business, some of you, what's the one thing that you should do? It's not beautify your facility, because that's not moving the ball forward. It's not team building exercises, because, like, great if you have a team, but if you ain't making no money, like, that's not moving the ball forward. Now, some of you, it is team building because you got a toxic culture and you really need to address that, because if not, it's going to shoot you in the foot and your business is going to go completely under. Some of you, it might be, the one thing could be creating revenue. The one thing could be building my team, finding the right who's, to reference another book, Who Not How. So you've got to determine what is the one thing. Now, you may have one thing in your business, like I was just talking about, but you may be looking at a relationship and saying, what's the one thing that would make everything else easier and necessary? Maybe your marriage is teetering on the brink. Maybe you're in a committed relationship and it ain't going well. Maybe you're single and you're like, what's the one thing I can do that makes everything else easier and necessary? And you want a relationship, there might be one action of putting yourself in the right kind of environment, putting yourself among the right peers that makes it easier to find that relationship. You might be looking at your health and what is the one thing that makes everything else easier and necessary? For some of you, it is not working out and it's not joining a gym. Like, oh my goodness, how many of us have joined gym and then that membership went to waste, right? The one thing might be getting accountability, right? The one thing might be stop eating after 7 o'clock in the evening. You want to drop weight? The one thing, stop eating. Stop drinking soda. Stop drinking sweet tea. It's funny, I said that on a previous video and someone commented like, it's good stuff, Mark, but don't mess with my sweet tea. Well, Don, you need to stop drinking the sweet tea. I'm telling you, man, it's a decision. It's your one thing, bro. Clearly it is. Okay. Anyways, what is the one thing? So stop trying to do all the things and get focused on one thing. It's a tough question to answer. Some of you, like, you ask the question and you're like, oh, this is it. This is the one thing. But others of you, it's going to take a little time to process, because you've got so many options, and now you've got to whittle it down. And you've got to say, okay, what is the one thing? What is the one thing in my business? The one thing in my relationships? The one thing in my parenting? The one thing in my health? The one thing in my spiritual journey? The one thing for my personal development? What's the one thing that makes everything else easier and necessary? If you have not read the book, just friggin' pick up the book, because it could be a game-changing resource for you. I reference it constantly. Haven't done a video like this. I probably talked about it a year ago. Haven't done it recently, and so I thought it was good enough to come back. In fact, I want to give you 4 practical things if you're going to step into a one thing mentality. What's the one thing? I'm going to say it 100 times. The one thing that makes everything else easier or even unnecessary. If you're going to step into that mentality, let me give you 4 practical things on that of how you can do that. Number 1, get ready. You're going to have to say no. Number 1, say no. Say no often. Say no more. One of my favorite statements, most of you heard me say this, but every yes has to be paid for with 1,000 no's. So if you're going to get to the one thing, you're going to say yes to the one thing that is most important. And if you're going to say yes to that one thing that is most important, it's going to have to be paid for with 1,000 no's. Now that's hyperbole, like you guys but it's exaggeration with that kind of has some meat to it, because you have to say no to a lot of things if you're going to say yes to that. So get ready to say no. Get ready. Listen, it is not your responsibility to make other people happy. I had somebody, a client on a call this week in our community, and she used this beautiful language, and I'll just pay it forward to you. She said, I realized I was living my life checking things off the list, checking boxes off the list of someone else's to-do list. What was she doing? She was saying yes to all the things everybody else told her she was supposed to say yes to. When you get focused on the one thing that's most important, everybody's not going to agree with your priorities. Okay? This is what my friend April Garcia calls ruthless prioritization. You're going to have to say no to a whole lot in order to be able to say yes to that one thing. You should definitely check out April's podcast, April Garcia, Pivot Me. Lots of content on there on a lot of topics, just like what we're talking about today. Massive, massive value. So ruthless prioritization, you're going to have to say no to a whole lot of things. Number 2, don't multitask. I know you think you can. And I know ladies like to say we can multitask better than men. Maybe you can, but statistically, scientifically, it is proven there is a high cost to what they call in the studies task switching. So if I am doing one thing and I am interrupted by a text or an email or a phone call and I switch to that task, I went over to it, but there's going to be a cost because it's going to take me X amount of time to get refocused on the thing that I was doing to begin with. And your brain cannot actually do 2 things at the same time. I know you like if you're going in the subconscious and you're not you're doing things that subconsciously you don't have to think about, like you could be folding clothes and listening to a podcast. Hey, that's cool and all. But if you're talking about the most important things, like we're talking about the one thing that's most important. If you're working on your one thing that's most important that makes everything else easier or unnecessary, that is not something you can multitask. It deserves the priority, the attention, the focus that it requires. You can't multitask on one thing level kind of stuff because that's the thing that's going to move your life, your business forward more than anything else, and it requires your undivided attention. Stop freaking multitasking. You're robbing yourself of productivity and efficiency. So stop multitasking. Multitasking is, in fact, a myth. I'm going to get a lot of hate mail on this one. I'm okay. I can handle it. Number 3, practical thing, just 2 more real quick here. Time block. He talks a lot about this in the book, the one thing, so get the book. But time blocking, massive, because when you time block, another book that talks about this is Deep Work. I think that's Cal Newport is the author. But he talks about time blocking for your deep work. Time blocking for the most important activities that you need to do. And so if you can focus on a task, because we're not multitasking and our one thing deserves focus and attention, and you time block 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Honestly, what I would recommend and what he recommends in the book, if you got a one thing that's big enough, you should be time blocking your best time every day. So if it's the first 2 hours of the day or the first 4 hours of the day, time block it, give your one thing your undivided attention so that you can make drastic, radical progress, quicker progress by time blocking and giving it undivided attention. So if you haven't time blocked, it is a gift of productivity to your life, and you're going to get more done in less time. So think about time blocking for your one thing. And last, this is huge. Guys, this is the big kahuna. Are you ready? If you want to accomplish that one thing, the one thing that makes everything else easier or even unnecessary, there's something a focus that you're going to need. Be patient. Now, I know I'm not talking to the right people about being patient because you all want it done now. Like, come on, like, let's achieve it. Let's cross the finish line. Let's check the box. Let's get it done. Let's move faster. And I learned this statement from the branding company I work with, Brand Builders Group, and Rory Vaden, the founder of it. He said this. He said, listen, you want to go as fast as you can and as slow as you need to. And when we're talking about one thing, priorities, these are the big rocks. These are the big things that are going to move you forward the most. They are not typically things that move super, super fast. Now, some, like you might have one thing that's like, man, it's a short term and you can knock it off the list pretty quick. That's cool. That's great. Celebrate that. Enjoy it while you can. But the big stuff, like I want to have a healthy marriage. That's my one thing. Okay, you might want to be patient with that. I want to be in the best shape of my life. Great. Okay, start with walking 10,000 steps a day and doing that consistently, and that's your one thing. But it's going to take time. So if you want to accomplish big things, be patient. Realize that the things worth accomplishing are going to take a little bit of time, and be patient in the process. Comes back to, I think I did a video not long ago about The Compound Effect, another great book by Darren Hardy. You should totally read that one. But The Compound Effect, small actions done consistently over time is what creates drastic results. And oftentimes your one thing is going to require that kind of overtime process. So you got to be patient with it. So what is your one thing? Could you drop it in the comments? Like, do you know? Do you need to take some time to think and journal about it? Or do you know it right now? If you know what your one thing is, drop it in the comments. And then the other thing I would say is, what of those 4 things, saying no, time blocking, what was the other one? Saying no, time blocking, not multitasking. Some of you don't like that one. And being patient. Which one of those do you need to work on? Drop it in the comments. I hope this served you. I want you to get it all done. But in order to get it all done, you've got to pick the most important thing. What is the one thing that's going to move you forward the most? Pick it, choose it, make a solid decision, and live into it with your behavior, with your action. Follow up that decision with your action, and you're going to see results. 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 You're going to get it done. Not at all, but you're going to get the most important thing down. So I hope this video served you. I love you guys. This is where you should get off this video and go out there and give your greatness to the world, because somebody needs what's on the inside of you. Don't hold it back. Go give it away. I love you all. Have a great week.